And there's another thing giving away the truth of the US-Israeli success during this operation, and that is the fact that Trump is very publicly calling on the Kurds to carry out a separatist war in Iran. This confirms that the US feels the dire need to send ground troops into Iran. What this tells you is that they no longer count on the Iranian people to rise up, the government to back down and give in to US demands, or the IRGC officials to betray the government and flip. It also tells you that these strikes aren't working to stop Iran's attacks and that they can't last forever. So they are quickly trying to recruit the Kurds to step in and do the fighting for them. That is why the US has been heavily bombing western Iran in the Kurdish populated areas to weaken Iranian defenses and soften them up before the Kurds potentially go in. Now, usually these kinds of arrangements are made privately behind closed doors with the CIA heavily involved. But the media is publicizing this as if it's a very casual arrangement. Well, it's not. It is very openly asking Kurds to be mercenaries for the Zionist Jews and their war on Iran. Now, I'm going to quickly summarize this because Kurdish history and politics truly deserves an entire documentary on its own. But I'll quickly try to bring you up to speed. The Kurds are the largest ethnic population on earth without a state, potentially 45 million Kurds living mostly in southern Turkey, northeast Iraq, northwestern Iran, and northeastern Syria. As a mountainous people, they were separated by the Zagros Mountains, leading to a large ethnic population with a number of different dialects. So while these Kurds share a culture and heritage, they don't speak the exact same language, nor do they share the exact same politics. Like everyone else on earth, they are not a monolith. The Kurds in Iraq have been the most successful in establishing a state after the US invasion led to a semi-autonomous region within Iraq where the Kurds govern themselves and have their own parliament, but are still subject to the Iraqi central government. Now, Trump has already potentially recruited the Kurdish groups from Iran, but they are not large enough, trained enough, or organized enough to be of any effect on this war with Iran. So Trump has been applying enormous pressure on the Kurds in Iraq to set up bases for the Iranian Kurdish groups to train. They also want the Iraqi Kurds to give the green light for local Kurds to sign up for the fight in Iran. Even with this, it is unlikely that they will succeed given the size of Iran's army and the fact that they are currently in a war for their survival right now. But without this support, the Iranian Kurdish group would definitely not stand a chance. And even so, Kurdish society is very diverse. Secular nationalist Kurds are gung-ho on fighting anyone around them for the expansion of their borders and independence. More religious Kurds, however, are less interested in nationalism and more interested in a sort of pan-Islamic regional alliance of Arabs, Turks, and Persians. And many Kurds in Iran enjoy their life and have no interest in a civil war when they already have the human and civil rights they need to live a life of dignity. I say all of this to demonstrate that Kurds are diverse in their views and their interests, and that there wouldn't exactly be a consensus on whether or not they should fight Iran. And another issue is that the Kurdish region of Iraq has only recently produced power grids and the oil and gas fields necessary to operate them to provide 24/7 electricity to the people. After 30 years, Kurdistan finally has consistent electricity. All it takes, however, is one strike from Iran to completely undo this. And there are local Shia militias that would obviously be attacking the Kurds within Iraq if they entered the war for the US. So Kurdish leadership is in a difficult position. They fully understand what is at stake, and for this reason, I believe they probably won't be joining, at least not anytime soon, especially after being betrayed in Syria. Still, Trump is applying pressure on them to get involved. Why? Obviously, it's because this isn't going very well for them right now. Lastly, I want to take you back to the Strait of Hormuz. As you can tell, ships still have not moved a single inch. Take a look at this tweet here. This is going to get more interesting than most people appreciate. A Malta-flagged Safine Prestige cargo ship got tagged by an unknown projectile in the Strait of Hormuz earlier today, and it is still anchored. It wasn't China-owned. The UK MTO says it caused an engine room fire, but the crew are safe and accounted for. Iran isn't messing around with this closure. When they say closed, they mean it. They've clearly committed substantial assets to enforce it because this is their less than nuclear option. This disruption has forced the Gulf nations to cut off their oil and gas production. To understand the severity of the situation, let's read this tweet together. Quote, Qatar Energy just declared force majeure. Three words that mean we cannot deliver and legally we do not have to. This is no longer a supply disruption. This is a contract collapse. Force majeure is not a precaution. It is a formal legal declaration that an unforeseeable event beyond Qatar's energy control has made fulfillment impossible. Every affected buyer just had their contract voided. The gas they were counting on is gone, and they have no legal recourse to get it back. 82% of Qatar's liquid natural gas goes to Asia. China relies on Qatar for 30% of its LNG imports, India 42 to 52%, South Korea 14 to 19%, Taiwan 25%. Japan is already rationing to spot markets. Asian benchmark prices jumped 39% the day production stopped. Force majeure just made that permanent until further notice. Indian companies have already cut gas supplies to industry by 10 to 30%. That is not a market adjustment. That is factories running at reduced capacity today across the world's most populous continent because Iran sent drones into Ras Laffan. Here is the number the market still has not fully absorbed. It takes 2 weeks to restart a liquefaction train after a full cold shutdown. Then 2 more weeks to reach full capacity. That is a minimum of 4 weeks at zero, assuming no further strikes, no security complications, no inspection delays. And the war is still running. There is no security guarantee, there is no restart timeline, there is no floor. Every LNG contract in Asia just became a spot market problem. Every spot market problem just became an inflation problem. Every inflation problem just became a central bank problem. This started as a war in the Middle East. It is now inside every factory, every power plant, and every gas bill across Asia. Price that chain. So the chess pieces are in place. The US may control the skies, but Iran controls the Strait of Hormuz and the movement of oil. The US can fly over Iran looking for missiles all day, but good luck finding this. What you just witnessed was one of the first, if not the first, missile launch through the ground. Now, before the next one launches, I want you to look at the ground and tell me where you think the next one is going to launch from. Notice how uniform the ground looks. That is the problem that the US has when trying to find and destroy these missiles. This is just one of the ways Iran plans to launch their projectiles at the Strait of Hormuz. So despite the US claiming victory, don't drink the Kool-Aid, at least not yet. This war is just getting started. But what do you think? Has Trump just trap the US in another forever war in the Middle East, or will Iran fold? Let me know down below. I make updates on this war daily, so if you are new here, be sure to subscribe and stay tuned for more information. I also interview very interesting people, academics, experts, analysts. I have created a separate channel for these interviews. That is Podcast & Co. I just interviewed Carl Zah today about whether or not China was going to jump in this war. It was a super informative conversation. It really is like going to a college lecture, but for free. So do me a favor, subscribe to that channel as well. I'll put the link to it in the pinned comment as well. Thanks for watching, and as always, take care of yourselves.
Trust nothing. No